Thank you, everybody, for being here. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Joines.
Good afternoon, everyone. Nice crowd. I like this. Thank you all for coming out here. What a great way to begin Black History Month here in Winston-Salem. This wonderful exhibit here in our beautiful Union Station that I don't know if everybody's been in here before, but it's a great facility, and we're hopeful before too long we might have some choo-choo trains running down here that connects it all together. We did get a grant, by the way, that's helping us study a connection from here down to Raleigh. So we're thrilled to be here. And we've got a number of individuals that I'm going to recognize and just ask them to come up and make some comments. What I'm going to do to just kind of streamline things a little bit is I'll just recognize them, and then they can just come up in the order that they did. First of all would be our council member, Annette Scipio, who we're in her ward here, the East Ward, and this is one of her favorite spots in the ward, I'm pretty sure. Going to ask Councilmember Jeff McIntosh from the Northwest Ward and Councilmember Kevin Mundy from the Southwest Ward to come on up. And then in the program, we're delighted to have Dr. Kathy Sitz with us, who is the provost of Winston-Salem State University. The chancellor sends his regrets. He's at a funeral today. And then Cynthia Villagomez, hope I didn't destroy that, who's the associate professor at Winston-Salem State and chair of the African American Heritage Initiative. So if we can go ahead and go in that order, and Councilmember Scipio.
Thank you to our wonderful mayor who served us for so many years. None of us were probably born when he started. But he's still looking good. So I want to thank you all for coming today to this wonderful exhibit that you are able to see and to learn about my people, African Americans in this United States. Who are we? What do you think when you think of African Americans? I was thinking about that. Of course, I know what I think because I've been that all my life. But it's so important that other people understand that African Americans, we were the weavers of the fabric of this nation. We were, in every aspect, from the lowest to the highest. We took care of the babies, we took care of the masters, the CEOs of corporations. We did it all. But our history hasn't always been recorded, and we didn't always get credit for what was done. Did you know that Garrett Morgan designed the stoplights, the red, yellow, and green stoplight, a black man? Dr. Charles Drew made it possible for us to have blood transfusions with his work on plasma. We were so much more than what many people want to make us. And this exhibit shows that. Architects, builders. What an amazing exhibit. So I challenge you, tell everybody you know, your family members, your grandkids, your neighbors, All of the children in your neighborhood, tell them to come and see. When you learn, then you can teach. You cannot teach what you do not know. So teach it. Let us come together as a community and recognize and cherish the contributions of the many African Americans who have been here and made this country great. I want to make sure that you listen to Dr. Cynthia Villa-Gomez. For those of you who have a rich heritage as African Americans, we want you to tell us your history, to show us your pictures. You may not think it's significant, but guess what? Someone in your family was significant. Matter of fact, everyone was significant. From feeding the babies, shining shoes, cooking. Some of the foods we have now came from some mighty good cooks in the old days. They tell us we shouldn't cook that way anymore. Some reason they live to be 90 and we're up here falling apart. But share your memories. It's so important, African Americans, that we share our history. We must document it. It must be kept for others to go and see. The African American Heritage Initiative is designed for that. It is a digital database on life, especially here in Winston-Salem. For those of you who grew up here, you know what a magnificent community we had, and all of the businesses we had, and all of the churches that were vibrant, all of the neighborhoods that raised all the children. We know that. Let's capture that. It's not lost, but it will be if you don't tell that story. So I thank you and I welcome you again to the East Ward, where we soar on the winds of change.
Thank you. I have the difficult job of following the mayor and the council member of the ward, so I'm going to keep this brief. This project has been a big lift from the start and took many, many years and many, many millions of dollars to get done. The hardware side of it's done. The building is absolutely gorgeous. Now the software side needs to happen. We need to make this place vibrant. We need to have diners in here. We need to have trained passengers in here. This place needs to be full of people who celebrate this as more than just a place to come and look at it as a museum. This place needs to be vital to our community as it used to be. So let's get together and let's get some things going in here where you'll see people laughing and having fun and going places and really feeling the spirit of Union Station. Thank you.
All aboard! That's what we want to hear. We really do. So we hope that's going to happen. I'm Kevin Mundy from the Southwest Ward, and I always visit Councilmember Scipio in the East Ward when I have an opportunity to do so. And this is a great confluence today of an event and an exhibition and a building that is just incredible. And you know, this is Black History Month, but I've said before and I've heard people say every day could be Black History Day, because there's not a single day that you don't use something or see something that was discovered or built or invented or thought of first by an African American in this country. So I think we are going to make this a vibrant place, and you all are the vibrant people to do so. Thank you so much.
Mayor joins, Councilwoman Scipio, all of our elected officials, esteemed faculty, staff, and students of Winston-Salem State University, and honored members and friends of the Winston-Salem community. I bring greetings on behalf of Chancellor Anthony Graham and the Ram-mazing faculty, staff, students, alumni, and partners of Winston-Salem State University. We are the city's university, the only university that has Winston-Salem in the name. And we are delighted to celebrate the launch of the We Built This Profiles of Black Architects and Builders in North Carolina exhibit. It is fitting that we come together today, this first Friday of Black History Month, to mark the beginning of a remarkable initiative that shines a spotlight on the historical contributions of Black architects and builders in North Carolina. Winston-Salem State University has always been dedicated to recognizing and celebrating the rich history and achievements of individuals who have played a pivotal role in shaping our state and beyond. This event reflects the vibrant spirit of our city and pays homage to those who have left an indelible mark on its architectural heritage. The We Built This Profiles of Black Architects and Builders in North Carolina exhibit, in partnership with Preservation North Carolina, exemplifies the diverse tapestry, as Councilwoman Scipio just stated, the diverse tapestry that is Winston-Salem. This program, with its exhibits, stories, and upcoming programming, promises to be a captivating journey through the narratives of exceptional individuals. Many of us know them personally. It sheds light on their enduring impact on the architectural landscape and the broader community, and serves as a testament to their talent, dedication, and resilience, inspiring us all, as well as generations that follow. I wish to express my heartfelt appreciation to the dedicated organizers, speakers, and participants who have tirelessly worked to bring this We Built This to fruition. A special acknowledgement goes to the members of the city's African American Heritage Initiative Committee and the Historic Resources Commission. I would also personally like to thank the faculty, staff, and students of the Department of History, Politics, and Social Justice at Winston-Salem State University under the leadership of Chairperson Dr. Denise Nation, who is here, Dr. Cynthia Villa-Gomez, Associate Professor and Program Coordinator of History and Executive Chair of the African American Heritage Initiative Committee, who we'll hear from in a little bit. Mr. Tom Flynn, Associate Director of Archives, Research, Learning, and Outreach of WSSU C.G. Kelly Library, and Dr. Manju Bhatt, Dean of the College of Art, Science, Business, and Economics and Education at Winston-Salem State University. And finally, I'd like to thank our amazing WSSU student interns who assisted in the implementation of this spectacular exhibit. I extend our heartfelt gratitude for your unwavering dedication to preserving and sharing these vital stories, and for your commitment to the core values of education, diversity, and community engagement that are at the heart of the WSSU mission. Thank you all for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you in the coming weeks.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll be honest, I'm a historian, and those who know me well, like Provost Stitz and Dr. Nation, know that I can ramble like most historians. I stayed up all night last night praying and asking the Lord Jesus to help me figure out what exactly I should share with everyone. Not too much and not too little, but I'm just going to share from my heart. So I want to say that about 3 years ago, I was appointed to the most important thing ever in my life. Councilmember Scipio believed in me and asked me to join, to apply. And so Mr. Robert Dura and I were appointed together. We were still in COVID, so we were on Zoom. And I had been telling Councilperson Scipio for a few years, I don't need the appointment, but I am going to do whatever I can because it's so important for everybody to know the beautiful, the good, the bad, the ugly of what happened here in our wonderful town. So I didn't need a title. But we went into Zoom, Mr. Bobby and I, and our beloved Joycelyn Johnson nominated me to become chair. So here I was, a mixed person, I was the youngin' of the group, nearly 60, and not originally from here. But I said, thank you, Jesus. And I was going to do whatever I could. So it's been a beautiful journey for all of us, and we really have to thank Councilperson Scipio for this mission and this calling to set up a city's official reparative justice archive. Their community archives are wonderful, but often something can happen to the materials, they fall apart. So with our city taking a stand, which was a true reparative justice stand, we now have an archive that will be there forever for everyone to access. But here's where we want you all to get involved. COVID shut us down. We weren't able to go out and get oral histories. We're just starting that up now. Behind the scenes now for 3 years, we've had wonderful groups of Winston-Salem State students who've worked to create storyboards for this official city history of African Americans that City Council has charged AAHI with writing. So our students have been doing that work, but now is the time for us to begin to collect the histories. And every week, we lose an elder. And when we lose an elder, we lose those precious stories. Now, back in the 1970s, Winston-Salem State's oral history program was vibrant, and oral histories collected by students in the African American community became the evidence, some of the main evidence for some of the seminal studies, like Dr. Bertha Miller's dissertation. And so we're reviving that, and we're asking everybody to partner with us as Winston-Salem State and the city's African American Heritage Initiative, and now working with Historic Resources Commission. So get in touch with us, sign up. Our students are eager to meet with you and to hear your histories. And I'm rambling, I'm just going to say one last thing. We would not be here if it were not for the mission of our beloved Joycelyn Johnson. And then Councilperson Scipio came back. We are here together, and this building represents so much of the way that blacks and whites work together. Our Dr. Atkins used to take the train from here and go all over the country and world eventually. And so we lost Miss Johnson, right? And that's just an example. She's one of 3 elders on our committee we've lost in the last 3 years. So get involved, support. And now we're going to hear from Miss Terry, one of my very favorite people. And I will just say, this is a story you need to hear at some point. She is the one who created the development plan to integrate white students into Winston-Salem State when she was a young woman in her 20s, right? She's gonna tell that story someday, probably not today, but thank you so much, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you all very much. It's, as I said, we're so glad we're here in this historic building itself here. That great way to begin this. I want to point out that this event came together today as a joint effort of the Historic Resources Commission, the African American Heritage Initiatives, and Winston-Salem State University. We do have Commissioner Tanya McDaniels right there. There she is. Sorry I missed you earlier. And we have Mr. Chris Leake, who is the chairman of our planning board right there. And if you hadn't had the chance to meet our new city manager, Mr. Pat Pate, is with us today as well. Hope you have a chance to meet Pat as there. Now, it's my distinct honor to present, I really don't need to introduce Evelyn Terry. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed Amber Baker. Oh, right there, I'm sorry, Representative Baker, our State House representatives, who has the city in her hands. Of course, I've known Evelyn Terry for a long, long time, and she served on the city council along with her husband, Fred Terry. Then she became a state representative for a long time, and we got to work very closely with her on that. but she's been a real preservation enthusiast for African American history here in our community. Worked hard to preserve physical structures as well as the stories that she's done. We know that her grandfather, George Black, made bricks and had a brickyard not too far from here, as well as a home, and they still are there. He went all over the world teaching people how to make bricks. I remember reached the zenith for me. I guess he was on the CBS Evening News, or I think it was. And so he brought a lot of gravitas to Winston-Salem for his work. And I'm just can't wait to hear the stories that Evelyn's got to tell today. So please welcome Evelyn Terry.
Thank you, Mayor, for your generosity. Good afternoon, everybody. Where do I start? My goodness. I'd like to thank everybody who invited me to do this today. Actually, it took me a minute to realize that I would really be a keynoter. You know, I'm not really accustomed to that, but the reality is that I accepted with humility, and I thought, are you sure people go, you know, tell them to pack a lunch. I'm only kidding. And there's so many people I'd like to thank for the opportunity to be here. I don't know how it happened that I was to do a keynote speech, but at any rate, I say because I'm probably the oldest rat in the barn, and I have been yelling and talking about preservation, and I have been doing all kinds of things to say that we need to honor our history, we need to respect those things that, and when I saw the title from Preservation NC is having its conference here, I think, as a matter of fact, in Winston-Salem. I'm not real sure, but for the reality about how important that is to us, to ensure that with all, from the founding of the community and what have you, I did appreciate the fact that at least I could probably talk about the history that does lend itself to the late 1800s, because that's where the journey of my being, my presence comes from the reality of my grandfather, who, looking for a better life, basically chose, after learning a lot about what was happening where they were. His original home birthplace was Randolph County. So with that, I want to thank the city. I want to thank Preservation North Carolina, the Historic Commission that has been so active recently. I'm so proud to see the stuff that's going on and finding they're bringing things out of the catacombs, you know, and we're learning about who we are and how we got started and all that good stuff. So I just want to, it's with gratitude that I want to speak to you a little bit about some of the things that I know about related to George Black's presence here, as well as so many others who helped build this place. As a matter of fact, this year on February 15th would have been my grandfather's 145th birthday. Look, and I remember this guy. He guided me, you know. So guess, you know, just take a guess about how long I've been around. But We called him Papa. As a matter of fact, I think I might have one or two of his grandchildren. I'm a grandchild. I think there's a great-grand and there were some great-grands. I asked them all to come around because this is really, this means an awful lot to all of us. And George Black stands as an example of successful member of Forsyth's Negro community. And that quote was written way back. I wasn't able to find the exact year, but the reality is that it was because of what was being built, how the city of Winston-Salem was being built. And let me say this, he walked here from Randolph County, which was a 50-mile walk, with his father and an older brother in the year 1889, and he was 10 years old. So imagine that. I think the journey on foot took a couple of days. They came with 2 baked sweet potatoes, and they drank water from the springs along the railroad tracks that they walked to get here. So when you think about that, and the reality of arriving here, looking for a better life, just looking for a better life. What happened was that somewhere before that walk, my grandfather's grandmother, who worked on the black plantation, had heard, because she was the house lady, she came around to the place where they lived, and there was an opening, something like a window, as he described it, that allowed her to whisper and say, "They freed the slaves." So that was the beginning of the planning to try to find a better life, and that therefore they planned it to walk, and they arrived here. And the wonderful thing about it is that when they did arrive, the first place they arrived at was Salem. And of course, at Salem there were Moravians. That, in and of itself, I mean, I just, you know, it's an interesting story. It's a story that resonates from that point to so many wonderful things, and yet at the same time, so many very dreadful and difficult things to navigate in this life. The reality about the walk, they planned and thought about what would happen and how they would get here and what they would do. They really didn't know. They simply planned. The plan, and when I listened in my brain to the journey, when he talked about the journey here, it was always to be able to work. There were 2 values: to be able to work and earn a decent living, and to get some schooling. Didn't say education, it was about schooling. How that resonated, I really, for whatever it was worth, the idea of being able to get that schooling, I don't know how that family had lived and what they did earlier, but I know that there was a lot of storytelling going on. I remember, as a matter of fact, I'm digressing a little bit. Oh, I don't know what to do. The reality of on his 100th birthday, I'm just trying to put the pieces together. On his 100th birthday, when we celebrated it, because of the fact that that's how the city was wanting to do it. The Arts Council, even the Arts Council back in those days, which was I can't remember. I had it here. Urban Arts. We had what was called the Urban Arts. Urban Arts Council of Winston-Salem approved a project that would ultimately produce a tribute to Mr. Black on his 100th birthday, which was 45 years ago. It's important for us to note that back then the Urban Arts was an African-American arm of the Arts Council of the city of Winston-Salem. Still kind of segregated, you know what I'm saying? But at any rate, we did this. There was a woman, Mrs. Dorothy Graham Wheeler, who was a director. This project grew, and its final project proved to be a masterpiece. There was an essay that was written by Emily Herring Wilson, who was a noted writer, researcher, and someone whom I will forever be grateful. She's also the spouse of Dr. Edwin Wilson. Who was a former president of Wake Forest University. But the reality is that essay is so filled with stories about how my grandfather worked with many other African-American tradesmen, skilled craftsmen, and those kinds of people. The reality about those people whose names were never documented in any of the business journals, like the names of the Reynolds, the Haynes, the Nissans, the Bonsons, and that sort of thing. These are the kinds of things that I think when I think about my lifetime and living in the house with my grandfather, I recognize the fact that when we talk about we built this, you see these wonderful boards, you see the stories and what have you, which is a good thing, and it's absolutely necessary. But the reality of what we have here is that there's so much more. I think about Winston-Salem State University, for example. I can remember the stories when Simona, we always referred to SG. Well, SG would come to the house. Kenneth R. Williams was my mama's best bud. She called him Buddy. He had a nickname. His nickname was Buddy. And they played together and what have you. And all of a lot of the business that was taken care of within our community did not make it into, I guess, whatever macroeconomics and business is all about. But it was done on the front porch of the Delbrook Road house, because I'm digressing and going back and forth. My grandfather, before the 1930s, built a house at 1100 Gray Avenue in East Winston, made with his own bricks, that had a balcony on the back. This was before, this was about it was in the 1920s, it had to be. Of course, and that's something that got torn down with urban renewal or what have you. There's just so much history to be documented that tells the story, and whatever you want to call it, I get fussed at a lot because I say we haven't connected the dots. There are many dots that need to be connected so that we understand the value of what it is that everybody has contributed to the success of our beloved city here in Winston-Salem. And that is one of the things that excites me so much about what is happening here today. I don't recall that we've done anything quite like this. I don't know, perhaps we have, but within the context of these times, it is absolutely paramount that we keep it going, keep it moving, and ensure that everybody is included. I love the fact that that my family does represent an important part. It's an important piece of the history of Winston-Salem, because as I say this, I want to say this, that as a child who walked here that young and that early, who happened to have gotten a job at Salem, where he became the houseboy and did the horses and learned everything, and that was necessary to be able to do the things that they did in Salem. Ultimately, became these people. He considered them his friends because they rescued a family that was looking for something better. They recognized that he wanted to learn. It's a tragic story to some degree because my father, when the entire family did get here, soon, some years later, some members died out. He had a brother who moved to Ohio and the one who had walked here with him. But the reality is that he remained, learned, did not get to go to school, but happened to have been introduced to my grandmother, who was his wife, who was living with the Freeze family. Martha Jane Hampton was the Freeze family's house girl. The people in Old Salem, including Bishop Bronthaler and the Mickey family, decided that Martha and George were meant for each other. And so the reality about that is that they were married and they had 7 children, and one of those 7 was my mother, who helped work with the family and what have you until my grandfather was able to have a brickyard of his own after he reassembled a wooden mud mill that was given to him to burn for firewood during the Depression. Instead of burning it for firewood, he reassembled it after having found another place to live and put it in the backyard and said, I think I can make my own bricks and sell them. So this is a circuitous story with a lot of bits, stops and starts and this sort of thing, but the reality is he just took what he found and made something better. And his life, the entire 101 years that he lived was just that way. There was no one that he was afraid of. There was no one that he did not feel that he was worthy of. We were taught the same way. I grew up, it's 21 of us, as I can recall, grandchildren of those 7 that he had. But the reality was education, faith. There is nothing that we could do without, he was just a Christian gentleman as well. The reality about I think he probably did also contribute to the building of the first, one of the churches here. Mount Pleasant United Methodist Church, as they say, my granddad and a man named Alex Walker, who was also a builder, Mr. Sam Scales, there are so many people whose names, Sammy Scales, I got him right here, William Petrie, Alexander Walker, D.W. Andrews, Gatsons, the Morells, the Roberts, Washington Witherspoon, Graces, Charles Calloway Ross, who did lots of painting and contracting down in Old Salem. And there was someone who was Vivine Ramsur, who laid the bricks for the Atkins Hall right there on the campus of Winston-Salem State University. I think it's not there anymore. But the reality is that these are the people whose names people don't know those names. It's for Winston-Salem State, the interns, let's get busy. Let's go find them and give them their rightful spot in the old business as businesses here. This is the thing that is going to help change this world that we're currently living in. The reality of looking at those stories and digging into them. The time that I have spent over the past year since I've been out of a job, I put myself out. I've been digging into this stuff, and it may appear to you that I'm just sort of rambling about about the whole notion of what we're talking about, but when I think about what we built this place, we built this place. Not just the names that are written in the history books and what have you. There's lots of work for us to all do if we connect these dots and document them and put them in their rightful place. So my hope, my dreams for everything lie in being able to do this and to also recognize this and not isolate things. Because when we begin to isolate, we begin to get very, very jealous of what it is that we want to squeeze and hold on to. But the reality is that until we recognize the entire mosaic, we will forever find ways to criticize and not do what there is necessary to be done to make it better for everyone. The reality is a better life, to do what is right because it is right, and not because anybody is watching, but in order to make a better world for all of us. My hope for today and throughout is that we find common ground. Finding common ground and ensuring that there is a little bit there for everyone to share and to build upon. Otherwise, think about posterity. The reality is we all have something to contribute if we only look at ourselves from the standpoint of the mosaic. I just call it the mosaic. You've got to have a way to determine that everyone has something that can be contributed to making things better. And the reality of a young boy who never got to achieve that schooling that he wanted so badly, ended up with a family and children and grandchildren who are medical doctors, who are lawyers, who are architects, who are wanderers around like me. The reality is that anything's possible. We live in a country that has much opportunity. We need to take advantage of it, but we also need to recognize all of the people who contribute to it so that it creates the mosaic that we all would love to be able to say is home and that we love. And thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mrs. Cherry, for sketching that story, great story of George Black, and also thank you for challenging us to connect the dots and to remind us that we've got more to do, and we need to come together and make it happen. We are working on a fairly big initiative right now, as Councilmember Scipio knows, and Councilmember McIntosh. Monday is the Peter Oliver story over here, Freedman from Salem, and had a farm just north of Old Salem, just before you get to Interstate 40 there. Business 40. So we're working with a group there, and hopefully we can get that farm reestablished there. So to close this out today, we're honored to have Mr. C.J. Idle, the chair of the Historic Resources Commission, to send us on our way. Mr. Idles.
My name is C.J. Idle. I am the chair of the Historic Resources Commission. And on behalf of the Commission and the Community Engagement Committee, which is part of the Commission, welcome and thank you all for being here. And I have this speech I'm supposed to read, but just as an aside, this is an absolutely amazing turnout. The Commission, myself, I'm extremely honored and privileged to be able to come here today and celebrate Black History Month with this grand opening of the We Built This exhibit from Preservation, North Carolina. And Councilwoman Scipio, the East Ward always turns out, and it is always a pleasure to come and celebrate history with you and all the wonderful people of the East Ward. So thank you for having us here today. This exhibit highlights the important role that the Black community has had in creating the built environment across North Carolina. And Ms. Terry, Thank you so much for sharing with that. I don't know how any of us could sit here today and not be moved and empowered by the story of George Black that Ms. Terry shared with us, and understanding that is a true American story right there. And that is just such a great story. And you know, how awesome is George Black? How cool is that man to have been able to accomplish what he did, coming from where he did? Like, really, that's just an awesome story. This city, perhaps more than most in North Carolina, is a creation of the Black community. It was mostly Black laborers that created the wealth that built the Reynolds Buildings, Renolda House, Grayland, Brookberry Farm. Black wealth, labor, and commitment built institutions across the city like the Patterson Avenue Y, First Baptist Church, and businesses like Russell's. And when you leave today, you look across the street and you'll see a landscape that was the vision of Simon Green Atkins, who built the school and the neighborhoods that surround us today. And as with that, we were privileged, and it was very appropriate to work with Winston-Salem State University to bring this exhibit to Forsyth County and this location in particular. I would like to thank Mayor Joines, the rest of the city council members, county commissioners for their steadfast support of the commission and reminding us of our charge to tell the story of the people and places across the entire community. And while as a Historic Resources Commission, a lot of our focus does tend to be on the built landscape and the buildings, but it is the people that make those places important, and it is people like you coming to events like this to remember those people that empower those buildings to continue influencing our lives and having that impact that allows the commission to be the service it can be to the community. I would like to send a special appreciation to Commission Member Shanita Johnson, who is here today, and Spencer McCall. They helped do the invaluable research that you see behind us here, adding the special addendums for the people specifically of Winston-Salem origins that helped B.C. Coopage, Frank Mural, Black stonemasons who worked here in the early 20th century, the various Black fairs that were held here in the beginning of the 1900s. And also, I want to give a special shout out to Heather Bratland and Michelle McCullough, HRC staff. They do so much work behind the scenes, helping to make sure that the Historic Resource Commission operates smoothly, as efficiently as possible. And if it wasn't for their work in doing all this, this exhibit would not be here today. So they're wonderful people. If you get a chance to talk to them, they're two of my favorite people in the state. So, so they helped. 3 of the local panels you see behind me, as I said, were the results of some of the research that commission members did. So this exhibit, including the local panels, will be open here today until 4 o'clock. Then it will move to the Fairgrounds Farmers Market on Saturdays in February before moving to Winston State University's O'Kelly Library in March. Please join us on March 2nd and March 23rd for presentations and conversations about Black places in Forsyth County. There was a flyer we were handing out. If you pick that up, it's got all those dates and all that information. Once again, thank you all for joining us here today. The turnout today is beyond anything I could have possibly imagined. Thank you for coming out, sharing your stories. I like to think as architecture is art we live in. So if you've seen today, if you haven't seen today, go and learn about the artists that helped build North Carolina's landscape. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for coming today. Please enjoy the exhibit and have a great rest of the day.